Okay.
I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
All right. Welcome, guys. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the roundtable and Friday for the Sabby show. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. I want to give a quick shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. What's going on, guys? I want to give some shout outs to people in the chat. We have a lot to discuss tonight. I'm excited. Let's get into it. Quick shout out to Megan. Thank you so much for becoming a Sabs member. Whoop, 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 whoop. Shout out to Foe. Thank you for the super chat. Happy hump day, everybody. Doobie. Thank you so much for that. Shout out to Pitchforks Are Coming. What these people don't realize is the socialists and communists that got them where they are till they went all establishment. They had no clue we were their main support. Well said, Pitchforks. Shout out to Hannah G says people always attacking Aaron. This is true. We're going to get into that story tonight. Shout out to Kinchi says, happy Wednesday, Sabby. Greetings, gamer says, hello. What's going on? Eric T. Red, who's a Sabby member, says, big Wednesday, hello to all. Shout out to Lawrence, who's a Sabby member, says, hiya, Sabs. Hiya, Lawrence. Shout out to Sterling, says, how did she lose again? We're going to talk about that, Sterling. We're going to get into that. What's going on? Yipper99 says, happy doobie doo Wednesday, everybody. Greetings, Miguel says, peace. Shout out to Notori says, hell yeah. What's going on? Janice says, hey, everyone. So not surprised about Ohio election results. I hear you, Janice. What's going on? Jonathan says, hey, Sabby. Shout out to Angela. She giving a shout out there to Gamer. Says, hi, Gamer and Ganja for life. Gamer, you are popular in the chat. I don't know if you know, but you are. What's going on? Ashera says, did you view my 2 clips, Sabby? I think I saw one of them. One of them, I believe, is on here for discussion. What's going on? Alatrice says, hey, Sabby, can you do a mutual aid panel? Yes, we can. In fact, I know we're trying to do something like that over at RBN as well. What's going on, Kim? You got to send me some of that barbecue, okay? We just got, we just gotta hook someone up. Gotta hook me up. What's going on? GA Freckles, who's a Sabby member, says, sup, family. Shout out to Anna, says, yo, Sabby. All right, guys. Quick shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much for your support, guys. I really do appreciate it. All of their names are listed here. If you're interested, I have 5 categories: members, Sabbies, Sabsters, Sabinators, and the ultimate. Here they are, folks. And I want to give a special shout out to a new patron, Mr. John Wendell. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate the support. It really does go a long way for me. And you can see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen. What are we talking about tonight, guys? we got a lot to say. I have so much to discuss. Let me go ahead and show you my thumbnail. Let's get right into it. All right, all right. Tonight, we're discussing Sam Seder smears Aaron Mate. What is that all about? What was said about Aaron this time? Oh my God. We're also going to discuss Nina Turner loses again. Ouch, ouch. I was awake for that last night. So we're going to get into that. I have a lot to say. And I'm going to discuss Amazon workers reject union. What is happening there? So thank you so much for the super chat, AJF. Never was into being a socialist, let alone communist, but I must accept they were the driving force for labor movements of yesteryear, still leftists. Thank you for that super chat, AJF. And that's true. They were the driving movement. Like they were the driving force per se, you know? Be real, Sabby for president win? No, 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 no. No, I would never run for office. I wouldn't want to put my family through that. I just wouldn't want to. No, it's too much. Like they get into your business and it's too much. Plus, I know how the system works. So is what it is. What, Angelina? Hey, Sabby, did you hear Peter Den talking about y'all in his last video? I don't know what the. Oh, okay. Did you hear Jordan talking about your last video? Someone sent me a clip from that. So yeah, I saw part of it. All right, let's go ahead and get into our first story. Multiple times, if you've seen over the past year or so, probably 2 years, let's go back a little bit. For whatever reason, some people like to try to smear Aaron Mate. It can be over any issue. I'm not here to like go to bat like for Aaron or anything, but it's getting to be a bit ridiculous. If it's not TYT, and multiple times it has been TYT, it's Majority Report. And so here we go. It happened again. This time it's coming from Sam Seder. So Aaron posted this on Twitter and I was like, what is this about? He said, Sam Seder co-host claimed on air that I deny genocide all day long. Oddly, they didn't say what genocide I allegedly deny. I asked Sam's producer to either substantiate the claim or retract and apologize. Rather than do either, they made a segment calling me a grifter. Oh boy. He goes on to say, Sam's segment doesn't say what allegedly makes me a grifter, refute anything I've said, defend his show's allegations that I deny genocide. He just states that allegations of a Uyghur genocide are controversial, have anything to do with its clickbait title. He goes on. On top of all that, Sam Seder claims to be unfamiliar with me and my work. So why do a clickbait segment attacking me rather than just retract and apologize? Sounds griftery. Oh boy. And here we go here. So I want to show you what Sam Seder said. So he actually responded to this. Don't be surprised. He's responded to me before too when I didn't even mention him like in a tweet. It's really weird. It's kind of strange actually. He said, I apologize. I don't do our YouTube titling and have just seen. I have eliminated the words left and grifter to reflect the segment more accurately and out of my respect for you. Should be reflected in YouTube soon, if not immediately. Let's come out for a second. So he said that he removed the words left and grifter, but he's kind of being condescending here in a bit, because when you see the word that is left, you're going to see that in just a second. You'll understand what I'm talking about. So yes, he did remove those words, but there's one word that's left that's still pretty cringe. Just wanted to point that out. So let's go back into the tweet. Let me scroll down here. Whoopsie. All right. So what was interesting about this is I don't know why this is not moving here. Okay. What's interesting about this is that I don't think Sam was taking the hint from people in the chat in this thread, because other people went on to say, now this is coming from a Adam Lee or whatever. Hey, Sam, you're so confident there's a genocide. Could you please provide me with any proof of it anywhere? I've done a lot of digging and it looks worse than Iraq WMDs. Other people went on to say, let me see if I show you that other one. This one. Now, this is coming from Blue Checks. It's weird that Sam even interacts with Aaron Mate. Aaron Mate is an actual accomplished journalist, like in real life. Sam is the host of a political commentary show that blows with the wind. It's like an NBA player, Mate, playing against the professor from the And One mixtapes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with And One, but it's like an NBA thing. But if you're familiar with that, you'd understand like the joke. And like, he wasn't taking, I don't think Sam was really getting the hint from people in the thread trying to let him know like, hey, Sam, I think you're wrong on this one. Of course, some people did defend him, but I don't know. It's pretty cringe. So I want to show you what they're referring to. Let me go ahead and get that up. So the video in question. Now, I told you I do want to show you that he did change the title, but I still want to show you what the title says now. So now the title is Dumb Dumb Claims Democracy Now is Pro-Imperialist. Dumb Dumb. So he called Aaron Mate a dumb dumb. You see how you get it? I removed the words left and grifter to reflect my respect for you. So he respects him so much that he left the word dumb dumb in the title. Let's get into this video, you guys. Let's get into this because I want you to hear this for yourself. It's pretty cringe. I have other receipts I want to show you as well that are going to back up actually Aaron's point. But let's see what Sam had to say here. I have some things to say about this.
There was a former reporter from Democracy Now! Named Aaron Mate, who...
He worked there?
Yes, I know that only because he...
See? They're ready to do stories about people and they haven't even done their research on those people. You heard Emma say he worked there? Damn, I knew that, Emma. You've been doing this longer than me. Come on. Come on. Let's go back in.
Has claimed that he's become very disappointed in how pro-imperialist they've become.
Well, that's when I think of pro-imperialists, I certainly think of Democracy Now!
Well, you should actually. I do want to jump in and say something about this. I don't know how long it's been since people have watched Democracy Now!, but their tone and their message has changed. I talked about this last year. Actually, Aaron came on the show. I'm going to show a clip from that in just a second. But I did ask him about that. Have you noticed that certain networks like Democracy Now!, they've changed their message when it comes to war? And they have done that. And you can go back to many of their clips from last year, especially when it came to talking about Afghanistan, when they were talking about this whole conflict right now with Russia and Ukraine. They have changed their message. Democracy Now! Has changed when it comes to foreign policy. Go back and watch the interview that they did last year with Noam Chomsky. Go back and watch that interview. But again, this goes to show you they're not even doing the research. They're just making claims based on things that they've known from years ago. How often have they been watching them recently? So let's go back in. Let's do the thing.
Apparently, it's my understanding that in my absence, there was when Nomi was on, she had made a statement about him that that he has taken issue with. Now, I want to be clear about something. My knowledge of this guy is extremely limited.
But I'm going to go ahead and call him a grifter anyway. My knowledge about him is extremely limited, but I'm going to go ahead and smear him anyway.
Up until actually today, I had never read anything by him. Well, this was actually an interview, the Chaz Friedman one. But my only experience of this guy starts with about 30 years ago. I did a commercial. I was hired to do a commercial for the U.S. Open.
Oh.
Did you ever?
No one cares, Sam. Get to the point. It's going to take him like 5 minutes to get this point out, by the way.
Did I ever tell you about this?
No. Which one? The golf or the tennis?
The golf, the tennis. And it was with this other guy, and we did these like really stupid spots on like on the roof of like some tall building in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. But then we moved up to where they do the tennis tournament.
Mm-hmm. Arthur Ashe.
Yeah, and
sounds boring, by the way. So far, wasn't at this event, but it sounds pretty boring.
I shot a promo for the next day for the finals on the court with, I think it was either Pete Sampras or Boris Becker.
Wow.
And I was
How do you
literally,
not remember which one?
I can't remember tonight,
That's
but I was
so
on the court.
cool.
I literally had to run out onto the court as they were playing.
Wow.
And it was one of the most incredible things I had ever seen.
I don't understand why that's exciting, but okay.
The how, I used to play tennis when I was a kid.
Right.
But I never realized how hard they hit the ball. I mean, it was a totally different game at that level.
We have the video.
And
I mean,
it's not important.
No,
not important.
maybe later.
Don't play it. We don't want to see it.
But it's out there. But
I'll watch it later.
And it was then when I understood why, because I was always flummoxed, like, why would someone be a ball boy? And it is to see, like, to be on the court at that moment is really exciting. And I bring that up only because my entire experience with Aaron Mate
I was wondering where you're going with this.
has been when I have gotten into like Twitter beefs with like, I don't know, with Jimmy Dore or
how did we know that Jimmy Dore's name was going to come up in this video? How did we know? How did we know? People can't mention one person that's not a part of that TYT circle without adding Jimmy Dore to the equation. Not really sure what Jimmy Dore has to do with this situation at hand. That's how far gone some people are. Nick was right. Nick was right when he said people have Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome. He's right. That's setting up the smear, by the way. That's setting up the smear. Let me mention to people that this person somehow was associated with Jimmy Dore. So the people who hate the Jimmy Dore left will not feel that he's credible. That's setting up the smear. Let's go back in.
Glenn Greenwald or something like that. He shows up like he's a ball boy, like completely out of nowhere, shows up in these fights, and I'm like, what? Who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah,
and
he's kind of like a barnacle.
That's an insult, by the way. For those of you who have ever like played sports, like I played sports, all different types of sports. I'm not going to get into all of that, but when someone makes a reference saying that you're like a ball boy, not like the actual ball boy that does go and pick up the balls and stuff like that, but when they use that reference to apply to someone kind of like as a person, that's actually an insult. Because people in sports especially, they see the ball boy as someone who goes and fetches the balls. They don't see them as relevant. They don't see them as important. So Sam knows what he's doing here. Such a cheap shot.
No, it reminds me of a ball boy.
Okay.
Anyways, so I just want to make that clear. But Matt, these guys have been on you for some type of correction. So here is the clip that we were talking about.
Of Nomi.
Yeah.
You can spend your time doing what Aaron Mate is doing, is denying genocide all day long, because that's also a path to making a lot of money on the internet.
Okay. So, and apparently, Nomi was talking about the his denial of the Uyghur genocide. And here's an example.
To be fair, from my perspective, Em and I could have maybe stepped in to clarify that. I'm a little bit sensitive to that criticism, but anyway, it's.
Yeah, I just want to say there's so much exaggeration here. Like, to say that someone talks about genocide all day long. I don't think anyone talks about genocide all day long. That was just an exaggeration. That was Nomiki being Nomiki. That's what she does. Sam Seder, like, in this story, in this discussion, he doesn't really seem to be that knowledgeable of what happened or what's going on. He's just using this as an opportunity to try to smear someone, anyone that seems to be associated or affiliated with Jimmy Dore.
Here is the substance to that.
And here is, and this is where Aramate says, I guess
in response to Josh Rogan saying China using Imagine in the Beijing 2020 opening ceremony, John Lennon must be rolling over in his grave. Imagine if there was no Uyghur genocide. And Mate says there is no Uyghur genocide. And you fully know that. I can only imagine there being no neocon propagandists. The world would be a safer place.
Now, I think the world would be a safer place without neocon propaganda. So I agree with that. And to be fair, there is controversy over whether there has been a Uyghur genocide in China. There does not.
Not anymore, though. And I'm going to get into that in just a second. Not anymore. Like, that's an older tweet. I'll let the video play.
Not seem to be any controversy as far as I can tell. I mean, I'm looking at the Human Rights Watch, which I am sure has been cited. Well, I don't know for a fact by Aaron Mate, but Human Rights Watch has been cited certainly in the context of other situations.
And I can understand.
So let me interrupt here for a second. So let me play this just for a second. I want you to pay attention to something that he just said. Again, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Listen to this.
Been a Uyghur genocide in China. There does not seem to be any controversy as far as I can tell. I mean, I'm looking at the Human Rights Watch, which I am sure has been cited. Well, I don't know for a fact by.
He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know. Sam just told you, well, there doesn't seem to be controversy from what I've seen. I mean, I don't really know for a fact. Then what are you talking about? How are you going to do a show smearing someone for talking about genocide all day long, apparently, and basically saying that what they're saying isn't true? But he just said he doesn't even know.
And Mate, but Human Rights Watch has been cited certainly in the context of other situations.
And I can understand the.
And a Human Rights Watch has also been mentioned about the United States as well. It is not just the Uyghur region. It's not just China. Also with the United States. In fact, there was a whole committee, a global committee that formed after the George Floyd protests that actually called on President Joe Biden. I talked about this on my show last year, did a whole segment on it, walking people through that summary of that report. They sent a letter to Joe Biden and they said, this global committee, by the way, people from all over the world, they said that the police brutality in the United States was an example of human, what did I just say? I forgot. Sorry, guys.
Don't know for a fact by Aaron Mate, but Human Rights Watch has been.
Human rights. That's what they were saying, that there were certain examples in the United States that identified and showed that there were human rights violations right here in the United States. And they called on President Joe Biden to act, and Joe Biden did not respond. In fact, I still have the letter somewhere. I have to pull it up. But it's not just China. And just because there are human rights violations per se, that doesn't mean that there's a genocide. Those are two different things. But let Sam go on.
been cited certainly in the context of other situations.
And I can understand the
Is there else?
criticism of saying we should not use the term genocide lightly. I mean, it's like I'm critical of people calling the war in Ukraine a genocide. That's,
Right, like Putin said Ukraine is doing a genocide. No, Ukraine saying Putin's doing a genocide. Like this is a politically operative term.
Yes.
But can I just say, like, my piece? I'm like certainly skeptical of certain neocon propagandists talking about this, like Marco Rubio talking about genocides. Well, it's like when people like that are talking about it, I need to know what we're defining as a genocide. Because like when I see like what's going on with the Uyghurs, like cultural genocide seems like a watchword to at least be concerned about with regards to that.
Yes.
And but I don't think
Or you could just look up the definition of genocide. There's that too.
say like Marco Rubio is as sensitive to what a cultural genocide is as say I would want to be.
Well, does Marco Rubio believe that the United States committed the genocide of
Precisely.
Native Americans? Does he perceive the continued occupation of Palestine, of the West Bank and Gaza as a cultural genocide in and of itself? Because then if we're using a term like that, it all depends on the context of who's using it and why they're using it.
And what they mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I've been out for a couple of weeks, so I haven't followed this, but at least as recently as the first or second week in March, there were something like 200 human rights groups who had written an open letter to the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. They had done a report on the Chinese government rights violations targeting Uyghurs. Uyghurs, I should say, and
It's Uyghurs, by the way. Yeah, it's spelled with a U, but it's Uyghurs.
I don't think that there's any controversy that I don't know how many. It's hundreds of thousands. Uyghurs have been essentially.
So he just said, I don't know how many, hundreds of thousands, but you just said you didn't know how many. He doesn't even know. He didn't do any research, just got on camera and just said, this is my chance to smear someone associated with the gray zone. A lot of people like to do that, by the way. Didn't he do any research? Let's continue.
I don't know what you would call it. Concentrated into camps, labor camps. That there is an assault on them based upon their being Uyghurs, and it is controversial as to how many of these people have been killed. And so,
But violence has broken out.
And at the very least, there is a cultural erasure that is happening.
That seems actually very similar, just in pattern, to American genocide of the Native Americans, like a major nation state expanding infrastructure into, parts of the hinterlands that go through populations that aren't quite ready to or willing to.
I still don't see where the term dum-dum fits in yet. I don't see where the term dum-dum fits in. See, it's interesting because I remember Emma and Nomiki during this whole spat with Crystal Ball and AOC and Amazon. I remember Nomiki saying, well, they just do these clickbaity videos. This Jimmy Dore crowd do these clickbaity videos. This is a clickbait video. Dum Dum claims Democracy Now! Is pro-imperialist. I haven't heard them identify the dum dum part yet. Where's the dumb part? Let's go on.
Meld in.
And you can make and you can have a debate about the precision of those kinds of terms. Like we're having a nuanced conversation about that now, but I think an outright denial is
That's farther than I would certainly go.
Yeah.
I think at the very
too
least,
far.
that is our clarification that he seemed to have wanted.
They don't know. He don't know. He's just talking. Half of this video could have been cut because half of it he talked about playing tennis, being in part of a commercial.
And that clarification is that he says there is no Uyghur genocide, and certainly it is there is controversy as to whether there is a Uyghur genocide.
No, there isn't controversy towards that. Not today. Not today. This video was posted. Let me pull this up for just a second. I'll finish it and I'll show you. This was recent.
I didn't realize that we were called upon for the.
Well, apparently through Twitter, there has been, a big issue.
The
there.
ombudsman.
Now, in this video, did you hear him point out any examples about Democracy Now! Not being pro-imperialist? Nope. No examples. Didn't see one, didn't hear one. But Democracy Now! Is in the title. I still didn't see the dumb part explained. And remember, this title also had grifter in it too. He didn't point to any examples. He didn't do any research. He didn't show any type of evidence to claim what he is saying. But that's okay, because I do have evidence and I'm going to fill in that spot. So let's go ahead and pull up this interview. Now, this was last year. Aaron Mate came on, and that was one of the questions I did ask him about. So I'm going to play that question, his response, and then I'm going to show you what the State Department is saying about this quote unquote genocide in China. So let's go ahead and get into this. It should be right at that mark. Yeah, it's right at that mark. So here we go. Listen to this. I asked just about that question. Listen. Awesome. Yeah, you guys do phenomenal work over there. So I want to get your opinion on this. Recently, Joe Biden has decided to boycott the Beijing Olympics due to genocide and crimes against humanity that's supposedly happening in China. And I want to get your take on this. Number one, is there a genocide happening in China? And two, what do you think about the United States government like making that call, criticizing another country for not treating people there correctly? Okay, so that was the question that I asked. And I remember going back to this because I had to ask myself, why did I ask him about that? And then I found that clip and I remembered because at that time, the US government wanted to boycott the Winter Olympics in Beijing. That's how that topic came up. So listen to the response.
Well, first of all, I mean, let me, when I get this question, I respond with a question. If you really thought that there was mass killings of people in Xinjiang, which is what genocide is, that's mass extermination, don't you think, A, there'd be some more evidence for it? And B, don't you think we'd be doing more than just like criticizing China on Twitter or boycotting the Olympic Games? I mean, don't you think there'd be calls for a UN intervention if there was actually a genocide going on? And it's the US has this way, and it's accepted blindly in the US media to just lodge allegations against designated enemies, no matter how farcical and wild, and the media just accepts them on faith. And much of the progressive media too, unfortunately, has accepted these claims on faith without looking for what the actual evidence is. What does the evidence actually shows? Well, look, again,
there's that word, guys, evidence.
And the Gray Zone's done phenomenal work on this. The main source for these genocide claims in Xinjiang is a guy named Adrian Zent, who is a right-wing evangelical bigot who says that he's on a mission from God to basically change Chinese society. And, reporting from my Gray Zone colleagues has showed that some of the figures that he cited are fabricated, and they're based on taking data about birth control measures in China and spinning that to mean evidence of a genocide. It's a complete farce, and it serves an obvious geopolitical purpose, which is that China's economic power is rising. It's a threat to U.S. supremacy, and that's why we're seeing this increased rhetoric against China. There's what's actually happened in Xinjiang, as far as I know, and again, I have very limited visibility because I've never been there for myself. But basically, they have an extremism problem. They've suffered many terror attacks. They've responded in ways that people like Chaz Freeman, who's a veteran U.S. diplomat, served as Nixon's translator when he went to China. Chaz Freeman says are repressive and harsh, and he wishes that they wouldn't do. And I have no reason to dispute what he says. He's a very credible voice to me. But to say that this is a genocide is so farcical. I mean, basically, what they've done is they've imposed these mandatory centers where people go for education in a bid to de-radicalize people. That's the idea behind it. And in the process, I would not be surprised at all if there have been human rights abuses and all sorts of bad things. But
okay, did you just hear that? He just said he would not be surprised if there were human rights abuses as well. Now listen to the rest of this.
that's far different than a genocide. And look, just compare it to what the U.S. supports around the world. The U.S. is the #1 oppressor of Muslims around the world. Compare what is happening in Xinjiang, where you have China in response to, and these terror attacks are real. I mean, there have been a series of terrorist attacks from Uyghur extremists inside China.
So he never denied that there was any type of attacks going on.
In response to that, China launches this whatever you want to call it, a re-education, de-radicalization initiative. Okay, so that's what China does. What does the U.S. do in response to 9/11?
Here's the comparison.
A similar problem of Islamic extremism leading to terrorism. The U.S. launched a global war where it asserted supremacy over the entire world to invade countries, massacre civilians, torture people, kidnap people from abroad and bring them to Guantanamo Bay and torture them there. I mean, it doesn't even rise to what China is doing, whatever it's doing, doesn't even rise to a fraction of what the U.S. has done, and continues to support, for example, in Gaza, this massive open air concentration camp where Gazans are deprived water, all their basic rights. They can't leave. They're bombed whenever Israel feels like it. And then we have the gall to claim that we care about China oppressing Muslims, and we think there's a genocide. It's a farce. And what I care about is how many people on the progressive left have fallen for it.
Okay, I'm not gonna play the whole thing. You can obviously, check out that interview on my channel. I'm trying to see, like, when was this? I know it was last year. Can I see the date on here? Why doesn't it show me the date on the computer, but it shows me the date on my phone? That's something I never understood. Anywho, I'll check this and get back to you guys and figure out what date this was so you can see that full interview. But you heard his explanation there. Now, what does the State Department say? Sabby's going to show you. Now, this is coming from the State Department. Ladies and gentlemen, again, what I'm showing you right now, Sam could have done this himself. State Department lawyers concluded insufficient evidence to prove genocide in China. I'm going to go down to this paragraph right about here. Oh, lost my spot. 1 second. Where did it go? Sorry, guys. I had there was one. Okay, here we go. Beyond, make this bigger. Beyond wielding the G word without, sorry. Where did I go? Okay. A State Department review during the final weeks of the Trump administration of China's conduct in Xinjiang pitted the department lawyers against advocates of a genocide determination. Those advocates included Kelly Currie, who then served as U.S. Ambassador at Large for Global Women's Issues and is a longstanding critic of China's human rights record, and former Senator Sam Brownback, who served as the department's Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom. It resulted in a split memo from the department that was sent to Pompeo, according to two officials. Beyond the legal debate over the characterization of China's repression of its Muslim population, the genocide designation carries enormous political weight, applying pressure on the United States and other countries to punish a global powerhouse whose trade, environmental, and security activities are intertwined with their own. But wielding the G word without a solid legal basis also carries the risk of politicizing and eroding the power of the designation, which has been invoked in the past century to describe the worst episodes of mass killing, from the murder of millions of Jews during the Holocaust to the slaughter of around 800,000 Rwandans during the country's genocide. The cautious conclusions of the State Department lawyers do not constitute a judgment that genocide did not occur in Xinjiang, but reflects the difficulties of proving genocide, which involves the destruction in whole or in part of a group of people based on their national, religious, racial, or ethnic identity in a court of law. It also points to a disconnect between public perception of the crime of genocide and the legal definition in the 1948 Convention of the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, which has long been interpreted by the State Department lawyers to require intent to bring about the physical and biological destruction of a group. Let's go back up to the top again. State Department lawyers concluded insufficient evidence to prove genocide in China. That's coming from the State Department. So even if you don't want to believe what Aaron said about this, the State Department is telling you they had no evidence. They don't have enough evidence to prove it. For example, there's evidence to prove the Holocaust happened. There's evidence to prove that that was a genocide. There's evidence to prove that there was a genocide. What happened to people in Rwanda? There's evidence to prove that that was a genocide. You just heard what Aaron said in the interview. There wasn't evidence. There wasn't enough. Sam Seder didn't even want to look into the State Department. So you guys know I always have receipts. I do research. Sometimes I get things wrong. I come back and correct it. But how could you not look this up? I don't really know this guy. It was like 30 years ago. I thought he was a ball boy. He's a part of that Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald people. Yeah, I don't know much about this, but you know, for him to say, like, obviously there was one, and he didn't even know. Who's watching that show? Who's watching this stuff? The people that watch, are they picking up on this? I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat. Hit that like button, guys. That helps me with the algorithm. Thank you so much for the super chat, AJF. Never was into, whoops, I said that one already. Thank you for this, George. Democracy Now! No longer invites Glenn Greenwald or Aaron Mate anymore because they don't repeat the Trump derangement syndrome message. I'm not surprised. Thanks for the super chat, AJF. Sab, you're totally right about D Now. Still does some good coverage, but they are taming themselves. Watch them since 2016 and watch them since mid 2000s. Yeah, they've changed. Their talking points have changed. Thank you for the super chat as well. Been more on the side of Jimmy Dore, but he and his detractors are all guilty of splintering the left base. Critique others, defend oneself. Don't name call, please. I wouldn't say that individual people split the left base. I think the left base split because there's a group of us that have a greater sense of urgency to get things done because we need those tangibles. And then there's a group of us that don't have that sense of urgency. I see a class divide on the left. That's kind of what I point towards. Thanks so much for the super chat as well. TYT and Majority Report, etc. These folks basically resort to name calling, in my opinion. Don't do the same. Ignore them until they make undue assertions. You rock, Sab. Oh, thank you, AJF. Greg Bruce said a Samsplanation is the ultimate form of evidence. He didn't even pull up any, there was nothing. I'm like, what? Where's your evidence? Where's your research? I don't know, man. Kyle said that vid is from December 22nd, 2021. Thank you, Kyle. Thanks. I knew somebody would help me out. Yeah, so that interview was in December last year. Steven, thank you for the super chat. If I believe that there were real actual genocide in China, I would be demanding action, boycotts, and strong action and calling out China, not calling out Max. Wow. That's a good point. JB's in the chat. I agree. There's definitely a class divide on the left. You said it, Jabes. You said it. All right. I think it is time to go into my next story. Actually, let me get that comment on Rockfin, Eric. I'll go ahead and take that, and then I'll go into the Nina Turner story. Boopity boop. Thank you so much for the tip on Rockfin Risto. Sabby dooby doo. Thank you for this tip, Roger. Before going off last Wednesday, I said something that I didn't go into detail regarding suburbs being the biggest impediment to progress. I say this because they are the soldiers of the rich. You see, despite everything, the rich, in order to have their policies pushed through, still need soldiers to vote to vote in their favor to maintain the status quo, because there's not many of them, so they can't outvote us all. So they use personal, managerial, white-collar office worker class suburbanites against us. Those with just enough or a little bit more than enough to live comfortably, although not rich, six-figure people bringing in 200,000 plus per household. Believe me when I tell you, I live in the suburbs. I see it. There aren't enough oligarchs, plutocrats, monopolists to vote for these politicians and ballot initiatives. Notice how both parties are always trying to get their vote because Dems feel they already got the urban vote and GOP the rural vote. Propaganda against policy to improve and bring up the economic conditions and social safety net for those in urban and rural U.S. is more effective on suburbanites, telling them in order for these underclass people to rise above their means would mean taking away something from them. In New York State, the progressive power base is in 4 of 5 boroughs of NYC. I'm beginning to see coalitions forming between upstate rural lawmakers visiting their districts, speaking with their colleagues, constituents, and vice versa. Not too much of them forming that same coalition here in Long Island suburbs. Even those who are lefties out here, no disrespect to them, but they are all getting Social Security. There is no youth energy out here injecting new ideas into the dialogue, not to mention not as much racial diversity. One guy who means well felt that the person to get as a running mate for the progressive primarying the governor needs to be a Black woman. That's old school lefty thinking. I had to correct him. On why that thinking is outdated, especially among millennial and Gen Z Black voters who are issues-based voters. Now, if you look towards NYC, that's where you'll find youth multiracial energy with the millennials in regards to improving social safety net and worker economic conditions. Not sure about upstate. I'd really like to know. Now, everyone with the sound of Sabrina's voice, apply this to your state. Does the same hold true? Is what I said off base, that it's the suburbs that are the biggest impediment to progress? Matter of fact, Sabs, I think I just gave you a subject for your call-in show Friday. I'd really like to know what other viewers think on whether the suburbs, not the $1 billion suburbs, but the affluent suburbs, nice home suburbs, not mansion estate suburbs, are the biggest impediment to passage of progressive policies. Sorry, don't kill me for this long message, waiting since last week. Thank you for that, Roger. Well said, well said. Thank you so much for the super chat, AJF. Sab, you're totally wrong about the branding TY. I don't know what you mean. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but thank you for the super chat. All right, let's go ahead into the second story tonight. We got to talk about Nina Turner. So I was up last night waiting for the results. I didn't have to stay up too long to see the results. They called the race pretty early. There was a significant gap. It was definitely worse this year than it was last year for Nina Turner. I'm going to get into the actual vote count in just a second. But I do have to start off this dialogue by saying this. I hate to say it, but we told you so. I saw people, kind of crying and people kind of losing their minds on social media. And I hate to say it, but we told you so. In fact, one person in particular, JB, my comrade from RBN, used to be FHL. He tried to tell people. Now, JB tweeted this on April 19th. Nina Turner is going to lose. Not because I want her to, but because the reality is that she's running in a party where they don't even want any true centrists to gain power. Then many of you will blame us on the left for her loss. You need to look inward instead. JB was right. Now, some other people retweeted this, and I'm not going to get into that whole jazz. We talked about this before, but retweeted it and kind of, I guess try to defend Nina Turner. And JB wasn't trying to attack Nina Turner. JB was just pointing out something that those of us over at RBN, we knew this was going to happen, but it seemed to be a big shock to some people on social media. I think everyone who doubted this, especially who tried to come after JB for this tweet, need to give JB an apology. I'm sorry, but call it like you see it. Call it like you see it. And he was right. Now, several people had things to say about this. Of course, Jink Uyghur was one of them about Nina Turner's loss last night. And I have two clips I want to play from this, and I'll chime in between, and I'll give you my opinion about what really happened here. So let's get into that.
Because the Democrats don't like primaries. They squash the press in that, and they pretty much universally control the press. Why did Nina Turner lose? Look, I know for a fact that race before it began was actually really close, but she lost by a lot. So what happened? Well, what happened was Joe Biden came in and said, no, Shontel Brown, we like Shontel Brown. James Clyburn, Pelosi, others came in and said Shontel Brown. And as it turns out, that makes a giant, almost unbeatable difference. Why did they?
And I'm going to jump in here because what Jink just said just proved my point that I've been saying for quite some time. The Democratic Party chooses who they want, and that is who they get. The Democratic Party also chooses who they do not want. The Democratic Party decided they didn't want Bernie Sanders. They made sure that didn't happen. They decided they wanted Joe Biden. That's who they got. The Progressive Caucus and Joe Biden, Jim Clyburn, basically the entire Democratic Party, and that includes Mondaire Jones, who was supposed to be a progressive who donated money to Shontel Brown, decided that they wanted Shontel Brown and that they did not want Nina Turner. And this goes back to one of the reasons that I like to point to tell people why this strategy of reforming the Democratic Party does not work. Jink just basically told you what I've been telling you. But when he tells his audience that, I don't think he realizes the message that is coming across is that the Democratic Party selects who they want. So, knowing that that is the case and that's how this works, why would you think that trying to put progressives through the Democratic Party is actually going to reform the party? They just told you. They said it right here on TYT. I'll go back in. Let's hear more.
AOC beat Crowley. because Obama and all the heavyweights and Pelosi and Schumer didn't come to back Crowley because they thought he didn't have a race, right?
The reason why AOC was able to beat Crowley is because they did not think, the Democratic Party establishment, they didn't think that AOC actually had a chance to win. That's why they didn't go to bat for him. They felt they didn't have to. But they adjusted. They adapted to the situation and they changed course. You see, when AOC won, when Cori Bush won the second time around, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, all of them that won the first time around, actually, and then Cori Bush came the second time around. Same thing with Jamal Bowman. The Democratic establishment woke up and said, wait a minute, these progressives are actually winning. We got to change our game. We got to do something different. We need to get Jim Clyburn to go out there and talk to the Black community and go to the Black churches. Hello, that's what they do. We need to get Joe Biden to go out there and talk to the white people in the white suburbs. We need to get some of these progressives in the progressive caucus that are definitely not really progressive, but they're on the progressive caucus. We need to get them to actually go against the progressive candidate and promote the establishment candidate and convince the base that the establishment candidate is actually progressive. Now, I'm pretty sure when Bernie Sanders started the Progressive Caucus, this is not what he intended it to be. He was one of the co-founders. But he let the Democratic Party get a hold of it. And what they do when they co-opt something, they take it and they water it down. And that is what happened with the Progressive Caucus. I went through the list of people last night on the show, and I pointed out certain people that I damn sure knew should have not been a part of the Progressive Caucus. Democratic Party grabbed it and watered it down. Let's go back into the video.
Thought he was going to win easy. And so, boom, we beat Crowley. And so that has happened a number of times, but now the establishment is caught on. The media will slavishly do whatever establishment Democrats say. So they all said 1,000 times over, Chantal Brown is the Democratic pick, and so vote against Nina Turner. And it moved the numbers so that Nina Turner lost ground in this race.
See, this is one of the times when I actually agree with what Jink is saying. It's true. It actually matters. Did you know that? It actually matters when the party says this is who we want. That actually does make a difference. There's more to go into the reason why Nina Turner lost this time around as well. I'll get into that in just a second. But these things matter. The fact that you had AOC come in the night before and finally give an endorsement when she's been endorsing Jessica Cisneros for the past couple of months, went to Texas, promoted her. She announced endorsement and support for Jessica Cisneros the other day instead of Nina Turner. Now, Nina Turner is going to go into some things. I'll play that video in a second where she explains what happened with the squad and why they didn't come out and support her in reference to the Progressive Caucus, why the rest of them didn't come out and endorse her. I'm going to get into that. But this just goes to show you guys, like I said before, the reason why they did not come out and support, and go back and find that video I did a couple of days ago where I told people I am willing to bet they were already told not to support Nina Turner. The Democratic Party had already let them know, don't you endorse her. Don't you endorse her for the Progressive Caucus. Don't you endorse her on Twitter. And I was right. Let's go back in.
But that also tells you the answer is in the media. And so if you're counting around, you're dead wrong. If Nina Turner is unleashed and is actually Nina Turner, because she's been too careful in these races, give them what you got. And she said in that great speech, which she's still going, no, I'm gonna give them what I got. And so I look forward to that greatly. And in terms of why she didn't win, well, this time around, she had no backup. And that also hurts. So when people hear, oh, the Progressive Caucus didn't even back her. Even her top allies and friends in Congress didn't back her. That's devastating because then it makes people think, oh, I guess I shouldn't vote for her I thought it was even, but I guess it's not even. One side has all endorsements, the other side doesn't. So let's call it what it is, because we're in the news business and we're honest with you guys. What progressives
He just said, we're in the news business and we're honest with you guys. Really, TYT? No. There's been several times when you have not been honest with your audience. But to the point, this has actually been brought up by multiple people about Nina Turner's campaign, where some people felt that her campaign, her message wasn't as strong as she was. Like the fiery Nina Turner that people were used to seeing on the Bernie Sanders, rallies and campaigns. They felt like when it came to her own campaign, they were not receiving that same Nina. They felt like it was mild, it was watered down, it wasn't as, I guess, passionate and fiery. And we talked about this over on RBN when she ran last year. When we saw the ads, it didn't seem like that was the same person. It seemed like it was watered down to fit what the establishment wants, to try to win over that base. Now, we can go into what this district is like, and we can get into that as well. But there were some things here that could have been done differently. I'm going to go to the next timestamp, Eric. So let me go ahead and do. I think that next timestamp is, this is it, 4:37. I'm almost there. Okay. Let's go into this part here, because there's something else that he mentions that I want you to hear as well. Here we go.
And so John makes a great point, and I've got to say this. Look, the point of Just Democrats when we formed it was to build a brand that was strong, progressive fighters. And they stuck together and they became a squad, right? And then they built on their power by making sure that they were united. And they fought back against the establishment. But if I'm being honest with you, and that's all I ever do, now they're at a point where they're in retreat. And they've lost what it appears to me from the outside, their will to fight.
When were they ever fighting, though? Aside from the stunt that AOC did when she first got in and she was, protesting outside Nancy Pelosi's office, when were they really fighting, though? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Because there were several opportunities where them voting as a bloc really could have made a difference, and they chose not to do that. When did they really fight together as like a unit? I mean, Cori Bush said so herself. We're individuals. We vote for our districts. They didn't fight to force the vote for Medicare for all. They didn't fight against increasing Capitol Police funding. And that vote actually would have made a big difference. They went along with the establishment. They didn't fight against the Iron Dome bill. AOC cried, as usual, but didn't really fight against. So I'm just trying to figure out if someone can give me some examples. When did they really fight for us, though? And Jink is going on to say they've retreated. Bro, they were never there. They were never really, he's acting like they were out on the battlefield and then they ran away. I'm trying to remember, when was the battlefield? When was it?
So, yeah, from time to time, they'll do fantastic things. Cori Bush on the steps of the Capitol, fighting for people who are homeless. It was wonderful.
They got approval from Congress to do that. It's not like they went rogue and was just like, yeah, let's go out here and protest and fight for people being evicted. They got approval from Congress to do it. Like, that kind of takes the activist part out of it. That's like me going to the police department and saying, hey, I'm about to protest against the police. I just want to know if I have your approval. What? No, they got approval from Congress. They got approval from Nancy Pelosi to do it. They didn't even tweet it out. That's why there weren't that many people there. If they were really trying to cause a ruckus with all the millions of followers that AOC has on Twitter, why didn't she tweet it out and announce it? You know how many people would have came down to the Capitol? It was performative. Performative.
It's exactly what we built Justice Democrats for. AOC when she did the original sit-in in Nancy Pelosi's office. But in this case, AOC.
That's the only moment you can really point to, was when she did the sit-in in Nancy Pelosi's office. What else have they done?
I mean, to her half credit, came out in the last 24 hours and endorsed Nina Turner.
No, that's no half credit. You get no credit for that, because when it came down to the Progressive Caucus endorsement, as Mike said on the interview the other day that I played here last night, he told you not one of them was against voting for to endorse Shontel Brown. Not one of them. That included AOC. So her sneaking in and sliding in her endorsement for Nina Turner the night before Nina Turner's election, no, I'm not giving her half credit for that. That shit was too late. If she can go around here and she can endorse and she can support Jessica Cisneros and she can get on a plane and go to Texas and support and campaign for Jessica Cisneros, but she had to wait till the night before to say something endorsing Nina Turner, you got to see the writing on the wall. This is performative. She didn't even tweet about endorsing Nina Turner.
That a little too late? Of course it is. But at least she did it for whatever it's worth, right?
But she could have been rallying. She could have been giving
Of course, guys. Why? Because behind the scenes, Democratic leadership is intimidating the living crap out of them. Okay.
Behind the scenes, Democratic leadership is intimidating the living crap out of them. Okay. So this goes back to my point again. Then how are you going to reform the Democratic Party? How are you going to do that? If the party is threatening you, we're going to get into that in a second. If they're intimidating you, if they are preventing you from doing what you came there to do, to push back against the establishment, to try to change the party, then why are you there? What are you there for? What's the point now? If you can't fight back, you can't push back. You are one of them now. You're one of the establishment Democrats. This doesn't make any sense.
Okay, I know it for a fact. So I'm not saying that all of them aren't in a tough spot. They are in a tough spot. Yeah. But that's when you got to stick together and fight. Yeah. And why did I back Nina Turner so much? Why?
But they're not going to, Jink. That's the thing. They're not going to fight. Don't you see? Don't you get it? They're not going to fight. AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, they've been in Congress how many years now? They've been there since 2018, or they won in 2018. They've been there a couple of years. If they're not fighting now, what makes you think they're going to fight in the future? They couldn't endorse their friend?
Why did I put everything into Nina Turner? Why did you guys put everything into Nina Turner? Because in Nina, we see a fighter. And by the way, we're loyal and we have principles. And I'm with Nina when she's up and I'm with Nina when she's down.
But this isn't about, it's not about being for or against Nina Turner. It's about the system that all of these progressive candidates are going into. What does it say? What does it mean? This is why I tell people you have this corporate money that controls the party. The party is going to do the bidding of their corporations and of their donors. That's what they do. Let's go back to Barack Obama. When Obama sat up there and he bailed out Wall Street instead of bailing out the American people. Why do people seem to not remember that? Why do people think the Democratic Party is going to be anything different today? It's not. It's bought. It's owned. I had enough of Gene. See, he's admitting things without even realizing he's admitting the same things that we've been telling you guys for a long time. He's admitting it. But after saying all of that, He's still going to tell you to vote for them. Come midterms, come 2024, he's still going to tell you to vote for those same progressive members who are not fighting and not doing anything for us. Watch. He's not going to tell you to stop donating to them, that's for sure. He donated over $25,000 of his own money into a PAC for Nina Turner. You know what that $25,000 could have done for mutual aid for people in this country? For people who are homeless, people who have medical debt, people who need to have surgeries, but they can't afford to do so because they don't have health insurance. So I'm seeing them have GoFundMe's on social media every other day. Think about what that money could have really done. All this money that we are pouring into these two-party system campaigns, they're not actually helping the people. It's just helping that person win. And when they get in office, they're not fighting for us. They're not doing anything for us. So what's the point? This is why I say, if you are going to vote, you need to vote independent or vote third party. This is why. This two-party is done. Done. Concentrate on local politics. Concentrate on what you can do in your city, in your town, in your community. Talk to people on city council. City council, they have meetings all the time. You'd be surprised how many people actually attend those meetings. They're free. Go. Let's get into the other video. Let's get into it. Or should I show the poll first? I'll show the election results first. Now, this is from, I wonder if I labeled this one, shoot balls. Okay, yes. Okay, I'm going to show you the difference in the races here, and then we can get into some specifics. Now, this is the results from Shontel Brown and Nina Turner's race last year, 2021. Now, you have to keep in mind this was a special election, so they weren't expecting turnout to be high, and turnout was not high. But I want you to look at something here. Let's look at these numbers. So last year, Shontel Brown won by 50.18%. Nina Turner had 44.52%. Basically, Nina Turner lost about 4,000 votes would have closed that gap. 50.18, 44.52. Let's look at what happened last night. Got to go to the district. They got everybody on this one. Okay. Now, last night, with Nina Turner and Shontel Brown got 66.3%. Nina Turner, 33.7%. Shontel Brown got 43,997 votes. Nina Turner got 22,329 votes. This is a big difference. She got demolished. I'm not trying to be mean, but she got demolished. Guys, this is a difference of like 20,000 votes. Now, let's go back to last year. I want to show you the difference. Again, here, Nina Turner, 33.7. Last year, Nina Turner, 44.52%. She got 33,420 votes. This year, she got 22,329 votes. What this should tell you is that some of the people who voted for Nina Turner last year, this time around, did not vote for her. And I don't know if that's something that everyone is mentioning. Everyone keeps talking about the big dark money that came in, but you know that's going to happen with every election, with every primary, any kind of campaign. That's going to happen. We already know that money's going to come in. But that doesn't explain the people who voted for her last year. that decided not to vote for her this year. I don't live in Ohio. But if I'm looking at this just based on the numbers, there obviously was low turnout again, but also this tells me that there were some people on the left that were not feeling it anymore. You could call it the depressed left, the side of the left that's just kind of like, I'm not really about to do this again. What happened to all of those people? Again, last year, 33,420 for Nina Turner, 37,666 for Chantel Brown, 50.18%. Now, let me see what happened with Chantel this year. Chantel Brown, 43,997, 66.3%. I seriously hope that this is a wake-up call for a lot of people. Whether you like Nina Turner or not, this really sends a message. And again, I know that she is in a district that is more liberal blue. It's not like a progressive blue. I totally understand that. There are some affluent areas in that district as well that sided with Chantel on the Israel issue. Although Nina Turner did try to appeal to that neighborhood as well this time around, it didn't seem to work. But what I'm saying is that something happened here. They were divided among 4,000 votes last year. This year, over 20,000 votes. Now, I agree the money is a problem. That's a big, big part of it. I agree there's negative attack ads, but guys, that happens with every campaign. But that is a big difference. And that also tells me that some people, especially particularly on the left, were not feeling it. We're not feeling it. All of those votes didn't go to Chantel Brown because Chantel Brown has 43,997 votes this year. And last year, Chantel Brown got 37,666. That's not even a 10,000 difference. 37,000, 43,000. That's not even a 10,000 difference. But there's a 20,000 difference between them this time around. So what happened to those other people? You guys see what I'm saying? Where'd all those other people go? Told you guys I like to look at numbers. Now let's hear what Nina Turner had to say about this. Jordan did interview her last night. Let's hear this.
What do you think happened tonight? Was it all money or were there other factors here?
Oh no, it was all money. Almost $3 million coming in the last 2 weeks. They know that we were winning this race. We had an incredibly strong ground game. We did field first. We've been knocking doors since February.
So Nina Turner says, we know that it was all money. They had money come in the last minute, but this happened last year too. This exact same thing happened last year. You know, when you're running against these establishment candidates, the money is going to be a big issue. You're going to have dark money come in. This is not a new thing in this game. I don't think it was just the money. I think that's a big part of it, but I don't think it was just the money. Let's go back in.
Commercials, they outpaced us 50-1 because I did not have the same level of resources that I had last time. We had a team that was different in many ways, and we went hard into the field, but we couldn't combat the onslaught of negative ads 50-1. So what we believe happened is that we had our voters out there, but some of them may have been turned off a little bit by the negative ad. I mean, they pummeled me with negative ads just like they did last time.
Do you guys think the people who voted for her last year were turned off by the negative ads that ran this year? Because they ran negative ads last year. I don't think the people who voted for her last year were turned off by negative ads. They already given their support for her. They knew who Nina Turner was. They know what she's about.
I am convinced that they would not have come in here. President Biden wouldn't have endorsed. The neoliberal would not have come in here. They knew that we were winning this race, and they called in a 911.
Biden didn't only endorse one other candidate other than Chantel Brown.
The entire country in a safe district. So it just really tells our movement, and my message right now is to the movement. The freedom fighting movement, we got to take the gloves all the way off.
But the gloves should have been off from the jump. The gloves should have been off from the jump. I think Nina Turner's campaigns, I felt like it was too nice. It was too mild. That wasn't the Nina Turner you were used to seeing on the campaign trail with Bernie Sanders. The gloves should have came off last year. Take no prisoners. Take no prisoners. Come hard at Nancy Pelosi. Come hard at Joe Biden. Come hard at Chuck Schumer. You got to go after the establishment Democrats. It's not just about the Republicans, the people who are going to vote for the Democratic Party candidates. They already know what the Republican Party's like. They already know they're not going to vote for them. You got to tell them how bad the establishment Democrats are. If it were me, listen, I would never run for office because I don't want to put my family through that. But if it were me, I would come hard at Nancy Pelosi. There's so much you could come at her on. Go after these establishment Dems so people can see the big difference. That's the same thing with Bernie Sanders. He didn't do that either when he ran against Joe Biden in 2020. He didn't really go after Joe Biden hard like he could have. He was trying to be nice, trying to be friends with Joe. Look where that got us.
Talk about the gloves all the way off. You mentioned Pinos, P-I-N-O, progressives and names only. Let's keep it real. The squad did not come in here for you. AOC came in 5 minutes before. They had their reasons. We can't endorse an incumbent. Who are the Pinos? And did the squad and the broader progressive movement let you down?
I don't want to get into the squad. Okay, some of those women are my friends.
See? This is the same thing Bernie Sanders did. Well, I don't really, want to come hard at Joe. Joe's a very good friend of mine. No friend. You trying to win. Call them out. I'm sorry, I don't believe people are really friends in politics. I don't believe they're really friends. I think that they are friends of convenience. You're nice and friendly to the people that are going to do your bidding so that you can get on a committee, so that you can get a chair seat. I don't believe politicians are really friends like that. It's all about what they can do for you and what you can do for them. She was too nice to, even with the squad, even right now, after you lost, oh no, take it all off. Take it off and just let it out.
Some people were threatened. Were threatened.
By who?
And, I don't want to get into the threats, but they were threatened. So, look, I want to lead them to the side.
No. So this is another thing. And I talked about this on Twitter, and I'll show that in just a second, where Nina Turner says that some people were threatened. What were the threats? What was said? Because if the threats were, you're going to lose your committee seat, you are going to lose access to certain people. If the threats were those kind of threats and they didn't fight back against that, squad bye. I'm sorry. What were the threats? Were these physical threats? Were they going to harm you kind of threats? Say it. Let it out. When she talks about progressives in name only, name them. Let it out. Don't be like, well, no, I don't want to name names. No, name the names so people can know to stop voting for those people. Why are you protecting the same people that wouldn't even endorse you, wouldn't even go to bat for you? After all that, Nina Turner is still defending the squad.
I will say that the Congressional Progressive Caucus was wrong. They were wrong, and I was really glad to see Congresswoman Jayapal in the Punch Bowl article kind of allude to they need to change the way that they do this. That came from the pressure of the movement itself. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been noticed. I mean, she did mention, the crypto billionaire coming in and that kind of thing, and maybe that's not the way we should endorse. The Progressive Caucus has got to show that they're different than the Blue Dog Caucus, because if they're not, then they might as well just go ahead and unite with them.
But they're not different. That's the problem. Not anymore. They're not different. I showed you guys the members of the Progressive Office of the blah, 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 blah. The Progressive Caucus. I showed you their pictures last night. They're not that different. Ted Lieu, Richie Torres, Frederica, however you say her name, Frederica Wilson. They're not progressive. They're not that different, though. That's the thing.
I don't want to put this on. Let me say this to the movement. The movement has got to understand that the neoliberal types are not playing with us, so we can't play with them. That's it. And we got to be disciplined. We got to be united. And we cannot get off focus, because the things that this movement is fighting for, Jordan, are beautiful for all people.
But what are we uniting over? I don't even know anymore. We couldn't even get people to come out to Medicare for All marches. We had people on the left smear us fighting for Medicare for All. I thought that was something we all wanted to fight for and we were united over, but apparently not. So what are we united over? What are the demands? I don't remember anymore. Are we still anti-war, or is that like a no-no anymore?
But we need more discipline, and we can't play games. And so I am committed to going all across this country and making sure that we get that message. And for those in the wealthier class that do support this movement, who do know that something is wrong with the system, we need them to bring it on in here in terms of making investments so that this kind of stuff doesn't happen again. I said that last.
But this brings up the class issue, which I love to talk about. The wealthier people are not going to do that. For the most part, most of them are not going to do it because they want to protect their capital. They want to protect their wealth. You need a movement of working class, poor, middle class. You need a movement of that. The wealthy people, as soon as times get too hard, they're going to be like, I'm done. I'm good. Look how easy it was for Bernie Sanders to walk away from his movement. Very few of them will stick with it and hang there and fight with you. Very few. But if you waiting on like the wealthy people to come in and save and help this movement, you're going to be waiting for a long time. They're going to look out for their best interests first.
Last year, right? It happened again because they fear me. I mean, it's just obvious. I mean, it's obvious. It's crystal clear. This black woman from Cleveland, $3 million, 2 weeks left in the campaign. And everybody and their mamas and their mama came up in here. But it's okay.
But that's another reason why you need to get money out of politics. And I want to say this again for those who, criticize the strategy that we have at RBN. If you want to put progressives through the Democratic Party and reform the Democratic Party, the first thing we should be doing is getting money out of politics. This is going to continue to be a problem. This problem isn't going to go away until you get money out of politics. Now, obviously, that takes longer to do. That is a longer strategy. So what do we say? We say, flip the 80-20 rule. Instead of doing 80% electoral politics and 20% direct action mutual aid. Flip it. Do 80% direct action mutual aid and 20% electoral politics. That's how a lot of things are won in this country. When people are fighting for rights, that was direct action. When you have direct action, you got to have some form of mutual aid as well. There are many mutual aid organizations and groups. You could do mutual aid on your own as well. We're going to do a panel about that to explain to people how to set up their own mutual aid group. But we really need to look at what the Black Panthers did and follow that model. That actually helps people in the community. Some people are going to be pessimistic about it, like, yeah, but look what happened to them. Look what's happening to us right now. Look what's happening to us right now. Continuing to go out and vote and nothing improves. Is your life getting better? Mine isn't. What is happening? For us to go stand in line for hours and hours to go to the poll and vote for the two-party system. In every election cycle, one says they're going to be better than the other. It's the same game every time around. It is time to do something different. Now, she's going to go into some plans for 2024, so listen to this.
Okay, when I tell you that my resolve, my resolve is strong.
Am I dreaming, or did you just announce a run for president?
Well, I said 2024, here we come. So I'm going to leave that for other people's imagination. But I said California got something to say about this. Iowa got something to say about this. Nevada got something to say about this.
Well, let me ask you, would you consider running as an independent rather than in the Democratic primary if you ran?
I would consider that. Absolutely, I would.
Now, everybody remember that, because if she runs for president 2024, let's remember she said here she would consider running as an independent. And honestly, if she is going to run, she needs to run as an independent. Again, for those who don't, I don't say don't understand, who don't like this whole vote third party independent thing because you're like, oh, they can't win, they're not viable. You need to understand the strategy. The idea is not necessarily so that they go in and win. The idea is to go in, build up a movement, and take votes away from the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. That's the idea. The only way the Democratic Party is ever going to change is if you stop voting for them. And I say this to all of my fellow African-American viewers who are watching. We need to leave the Democratic Party. I left the Democratic Party. I don't belong to either one of them. I belong to the party of Sabs. It comes with tea, a smile, and every now and then some sass. But I left the two-party system. And I wish more people would just do that. Just leave it. They're not going to do anything for us. In fact, they need us more than we need them. I want everyone to really understand that. They need us more than we need them. Because without us voting for them, they wouldn't be in office. They wouldn't have a position. They need us. And I want us to realize that, internalize that, and really reflect on it.
All options are on the table.
You know, a lot of people thought Bernie should have ran as an independent, or at least when he lost in the Democratic primary, run as an independent. A lot of people feel Democratic Party is where ambition goes to die, and we just saw a poll where 58% of the country said they would vote for an independent.
I mean, the majority of, even Cuyahoga County, the majority of the voters identify as independent voters.
You heard that? It's true. The majority of voters were independent. We're independent. And yes, Bernie Sanders should have ran as independent in 2020. How you let the Democratic Party play you twice in a row? Come on. Don't be surprised if Bernie was threatened too, just like the squad. Don't be surprised.
Independent voters lean some way. You know, and the two-party system has it. They got it on lock. What we have to begin to do is awaken the sleeping giants. And that's...
She just told you the two-party system has it on lock. The two-party system they have it on lock. How do you break the lock? Have to do something different. John to Emily said both parties are the same. There you go. There you go. Rob MM said Black Democrats won't leave the party until progressive can show they can win against Trump or DeSantis. Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Exactly what I plan to do.
And my last question, you mentioned the pundits are going to talk and everything like that. If you run, the media is going to say two-time loser, agitator, divisive, whatever. What would be your...
I remember the current president now ran 3 times.
That's a good point. That's true.
Can I just ask you from a...
That's true. That's true. But at the same time, they wanted Joe Biden this time around. They didn't want him the other time around. They had other plans, other ideas. Yeah. It's something else, you guys. I'm going to get into my last story, but let me go ahead into these comments here. JB said they also made sure to make progressives bend to their will instead of the will of the people. The squad was defanged and declawed. Thank you for the super chat, One Tall Girl 78. What are your thoughts? I was about to say ideas. I don't know why. What are your thoughts on the lack of voting integrity rules and standards for party primaries and general elections? It's a big problem. Convo Couch has reported on this multiple times. It's a big problem. We don't really have election integrity in this country. That's something I really want people to acknowledge. You know, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but it is a reality. We don't have it. I think we need to have paper ballots, not machines, paper ballots, and they need to be hand counted. But even then, you got to watch people, we just don't have that here. Steven says Pelosi, the polling says the race war is over. You can endorse Nina Turner now. AOC, okay, Mama Bear. Here you go. That's what they're taking their cues from. AOC told you herself when she went on The View. She said, oh, that's Mama Bear. We don't mess with her. See? Robin, hashtag the jink of death. Every candidate TYT has pushed has lost. Yikes. Kenchi said TYT are not honest news networks. LOL, jink is a hip-o-crip. Nation said AOC had that nice dress though. Right? Author, thanks so much for the super chat. Check the clip of Anna saying she's done with Dems, including the squad. She was pissed about Roe v. Wade. Yeah, I saw that clip, but I'm going to let you know right now, author. Anna's saying that, but she's still going to tell you to vote for them. Wait, November, watch. JB said, why would they even stay in the party? They can quit the party while being in office. They don't want to leave those perks, JB. They're paid now. Thank you for the super chat, AJF. Nina needs to go independent after what the Progressive Caucus and the squad did. They're disrespectful. Branding, you mentioned it about ATKS on J Door. I don't know what that means. Oh, branding, you mentioned it about attacks on Dore. It was kind of decided after Force the Vote that some people were just like, okay, we're going to attack Jimmy Dore because he heavily criticized the squad. And I'm sorry, but after everything that you've seen, especially what you just saw with them choosing not to endorse Nina Turner, choosing not to help or speak out for her, can you blame Jimmy Dore? I'm sorry, but he was right. Just is what it is. Thank you for this super chat, AJF. 90% outside game, 10% inside, in my opinion, is required. Money talks, but the people walk. Let's protest all over the nation. Scare the S out of the elites. I agree. Thank you for that. Martha said, so glad I saw Sabby on Jimmy Dore's show. I love her and this show. Oh, thank you, Martha, and welcome. Nice to meet you. Martha, I sing on here sometimes. I hope I don't scare you. Nice to meet you. All right, let's go ahead and get into our final story. This is not the best news that I was hoping for, but it's important for you to know, and I do have to share this information. I want to talk about what's going on with Amazon Union. So shout out to Case Study QB for this clip. He's keeping me in the know. Where would we be without Case Study QB? So, Squawk Box discussed Amazon workers at second warehouse on Staten Island rejecting unionization. So, unfortunately, this did not go as planned. Let's get into this video. Let's talk about it.
Meantime, employees at an Amazon warehouse on Staten Island rejected a union effort this 1 month after that nearby fulfillment center became the first in the country to vote to unionize. The tally was 618 votes against to 380 in favor. Those results still need to be formally certified by the NLRB. An attorney who has represented the Amazon labor union telling CNBC that it plans to challenge the outcome. So positive news in one case for Amazon, but maybe not so because there'll be a continued debate about it.
I mean, the challenge is this is another issue. If you looked at the vote, far more voted against it than for it, and far more people didn't vote than people who voted for it too. Right. I think there are 1,600 or 1,700 employees there, and this is where it's going to come down to the line. It gets all of these national headlines. It's riding on a few hundred people. But again, apathy almost is the biggest vote in any of these situations. It's been time after time where almost more people don't vote than vote in some of these elections that they've got too.
Let's look at the numbers, you guys. I think he showed it right at the beginning here. Did he show the
Meantime, employees at an Amazon warehouse on Staten Island rejected a union effort this 1 month after that nearby fulfillment center became the first in the country to vote to unionize. The tally was 618 votes against to 380 in favor. Those results still need to be formally certified by the NLRB.
Okay, 618 votes against. Let's go a little bit further here.
More people don't vote than vote in some of these elections that they've got too.
And what do you do? Do you think do you think that a non-vote is a vote against the union, for the union? I would look at a non-vote as being more likely to be against it than for it, but it's not really against it either.
Right.
I think for the people who did not vote, I think if you were for it, you would have voted. Like you would have voted because you want that, right? That's something that you're trying to obtain. You want to be a part, you want to have a union, you want to be a part of that. So obviously I think you would vote, right? But it seems like to me, there were obviously people that were talked to. You'll have people like employees at these companies that will talk to the employees and convince them that actually starting a union or joining a union is actually going to hurt them instead of help them. And people will believe it. It sounds crazy that people would fall for it, but some people do. Like they're able to convince them that you don't want to do this because this is actually going to hurt you more than it's going to help you. So I do believe that those discussions more than likely took place here, but it is quite shocking that a number of them chose not to vote at all. And that's why I'm wondering, was there something said to him or said to them? Excuse me. I don't know. Another thing I do want to consider here, and this is just me thinking, I don't have proof of this. I wonder if the Democratic Party's association with the union efforts, Bernie Sanders coming down, AOC coming down, I wonder if that turned some people off. I wonder if some people felt like, okay, this fight has now been co-opted by the Democratic Party. And I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not there. But I wonder about that, if that actually made it worse instead of helping out the cause. Because let's be real, there weren't conservative politicians that came down in support of it at that rally in New York. It was Bernie Sanders and AOC. It would have been different if you had conservative politicians come and you had Democrat politicians come, but you didn't. You just had Bernie and AOC. And so now some people may associate ALU with Bernie and AOC. And for people who may work at the other locations that may want to be a part of a union, but don't particularly want to be associated with progressives in the Democratic Party or the Democratic Party, period, maybe that turned them off. I don't know. This is just something I want you to think about. But I did kind of worry about that when they said that Bernie and AOC were coming. I was like, I sincerely hope the Democratic Party is not trying to co-opt this like they co-opt a lot of other things. But let's go back in.
I mean, it's hard to see the challenges that come on these things when you have twice as many people who voted no and twice as many people almost who didn't vote. But you're going to see challenges again and again, and it does catch headlines because this is a big, important time for the labor movement. They're trying to do these things, and they're going to do this whether it be store by store with Starbucks or whether it be warehouse by warehouse with Amazon. They are taking on the biggest of these. And you saw, I think there was something where the labor union is also complaining about what Howard Schultz has done at this point, the comments he's made on this. They say by saying the new additional benefits that are going to be coming in won't be going to the stores that unionize until they formally negotiate a contract. They are filing against him and saying they're threatening to not give these benefits to the stores. So this is being played on the national level, even though these are sometimes smaller stores or small warehouses where a few hundred people are making these decisions. Obviously, it's being played on the national screens.
I wonder if anyone was able to interview any of the employees that voted no. Probably not. Some of them probably don't want to be on camera, and I understand that. But I am curious, like after the victory in Staten Island, and again, Staten Island, someone mentioned in the chat, thank you for the reminder, Staten Island is conservative. That's like Trump country for people who don't know. And it passed there. So Ashura said some people called Smalls out for bringing Bernie and AOC, saying they're being silently taken over. Yeah, I wonder if that had anything to do with the decision making, because again, like the first warehouse, which is also in Staten Island, that's the one Chris Smalls formerly worked at. It passed there, but this is the second warehouse in Staten Island, and it was rejected. And remember, when the first warehouse, when it passed there, that was before Bernie Sanders and AOC came down. Bernie and AOC came down after they won. So I just wonder, like, what happened? Can go back in. We can go back in.
Howard, tough to virtue signal on this one for him. I feel for him. I'm a SAG guy. I'm a SAG after guy. It's clear where I stand. On this. I'm a SAG after guy. So that's all you need to know.
There you go.
That's all you need to know about me. So, you know, Howard on the other side of things, as good a person as he is, hard for him to come down on this one. Anyway,
all right, we've told you.
Why do you say that?
Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I don't want to argue.
No.
I'm just making a list, just a little aside comment. Don't. It's okay. I'll take it back. I withdraw the question, which wasn't a question.
I actually think the hardest part, that I think the challenge that Howard faces, and I think we've talked about it in the air before.
Now they're getting into the Starbucks part as well.
Excuse me?
He faces a lot of challenges right now, coming back to try to redo the store.
Well, no, but I think the hardest challenge is that one of the things that he built into this culture, which was so unique, was that he basically used to say, it was a great line, and it was more than a line, which was that if you could have, if you could effectively make your employees feel like they were getting more than they ever thought they could, they would give their customers effectively more than they ever thought that they could.
Dude, okay, I worked at Starbucks when I was in undergrad. It wasn't all that. It wasn't all that. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was kind of cool that you get to make the drinks and, you know, you get to make your own little caramel macchiatos. That's back when I used to drink coffee. Yeah, I mean, that part was kind of cool, but it wasn't all that. Like, I'm sorry, but we'll go back in.
And the question is, in this environment, once you baseline that, right? He did all of this first. Other companies didn't do this, so everybody got all of these benefits of the last 20 years. It's happened with a lot
of companies, Andrew. That's why labor participate. That's why unions have fallen to below 10%. There's a lot of codified laws that prevent the abuses that unions used to address are now illegal anyway. So that now, once you get past that, you just deal with compensation and benefits, And companies are, if you have a better compensation and benefit plan and it's still not a union, you don't have the union dues and you don't have the political issues that go with a lot of times that go with look at the stigma of teachers unions at this point. I mean, it's almost self-defeating sometimes. So,
this is really interesting. Miguel said they talked so much about Amazon unionizing. Meanwhile, Starbucks gets a union by the minute. It's true. I'm getting updates like every other day that a new union was started by Starbucks. They're really on the move.
And there's a reason it is a free market, and it's down. Why is it declined from what was it 35% at one point? Now it's below 10%. That didn't happen because laws were passed and that people said you can't be in a union. It's just the way it's happened, right?
Robert said he's in a union and hating on unions. Left of Mo said, what's wrong with teacher unions? This guy is a dick. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about teacher unions because in some states, it's actually like, I want to say illegal, but in some states, you actually cannot form a teacher union. North Carolina had that rule. I don't know if they've changed it, but I know about 2 years ago, they still had that rule that you couldn't form a teacher union. And it really sucks because North Carolina is one of the states that pays teachers the least, to be honest with you. So it's hard for them to really like fight for better pay. And teachers are significantly underpaid in this country when you compare to what I saw teachers getting paid in Europe abroad. So yeah, it's definitely a problem. It's definitely a problem. And I don't know why you would be against giving people the rights that they deserve, giving them the benefits that they deserve. The only way you'd be against that is if you're greedy as fuck. I'm sorry. And Howard, who was the original CEO of Starbucks, he's back now as the interim CEO to try to stop these union efforts. That's why they brought him back. First of all, Howard, you took someone else's coffee. You didn't create that coffee. That coffee was made by George Hallwell, who's based here in Massachusetts. Your people came, you took the coffee, you went back to Seattle, you added like these sugary flavors to it to make it something that George Howell never intended it to be, which is why he reopened another coffee store here in Massachusetts and came out of retirement to do so all these years because you destroyed coffee. Starbucks coffee to me tastes like it's burnt or something. Like coffee is not supposed to taste like that. It's like they overdo it or something. And like I said, I used to work there, so I know. But the guy's an absolute dick. He's an absolute dick. He was going to run for president for 2020. And he said he was going to run as an independent because he said people don't like the two-party system. And the working class people in this country are not being served. That guy who said that is now trying to stop Starbucks, stores from unionizing across this country. I get bitter. I get a little heated about Howard Schultz and the whole coffee fight because I'm sorry, but you ruined the coffee. Thank you, Ataklash. Said it's over roasted. Yes, it's just not. When I worked there, I used to make the drinks. So I'm like, you have to heat it up to this temperature. And I'm like, why? You're making the coffee taste like something it's not supposed to taste like now. So I know how all those things are made. You can make them at home yourself. Save your money. Stop paying $5 and $6 for a cup of coffee. Email me. I'll tell you how to do it. Email me. I'll let you know.
I'm unclear about how this relates back to Howard Schultz.
Really? I just think that I would think that Howard has he's conflicted on this because normally he would be, as I said, I said it right at the start. It's just an aside comment. It's hard to be virtuous when you're actually a CEO and push comes to shove, and now it really matters because it's your own company. Normally, I think he'd like to come down on the woke side of things, and that would be the union side.
Well, and the union, in this case, I was reading a quote this morning where they just said, look, he can't run a progressive company and be a union buster. So it's simple.
It gets into I mean, you're feigning naivete that you can't understand what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You're running a woke company. it's tough to be anti-union.
I understand Andrew's point that, you know, it's hard to raise off the base that he'd already built with that. Now that's come up, wages are higher, and it's a much more difficult situation because wages are so high, benefits are so strong.
Whose wages are high? Who are they talking about? My wages haven't increased. Have your wages increased? Anybody? Give me a shout out in the chat. Anyone? Where are all these high wages at? I'm still waiting to find out because I can tell you in education, they're not there. No. All right. I think we'll finish this.
So many of these places, especially over the last few years, you've watched retailers and others increase the benefits plans and everything that they're offering. Not just Amazon, Target, Walmart. The things that they're doing for employees are the things that Howard Schultz did first. But now.
But what were they paying people to begin with? Walmart was still paying people minimum wage in this country. What were they paying them to begin with? And then you have to remember the price of everything else has increased. We have inflation. Gas prices are up. Food prices are up. So did they really get an increase?
Now there are all these other companies who have copied it. And he's right. The situation's got a lot improved greatly. So I don't know how he jumps and kind of takes it to the next level. Anyway, it's interesting and we'll continue to watch it. In the meantime,
out of touch, man. I tell you, there's a lot of like the people that they have commenting on these issues for working class people. They're out of touch. They're not working class. They don't know. They haven't been working class, and they're trying to speak for people who have to work those jobs. Like, I remember waiting tables. I told you I worked at Starbucks. I worked at Olive Garden. Like, it's hard work. I remember what that was like. So please, thank you for the super chat, Andrew. My math work is easier than ordering at Starbucks. I know. First of all, Venti is Italian. Grande is Spanish. So I didn't know why they confuse people with the two. Thank you for the super chat as well, Andrew. Indian tea shops is where it's at. Authentic chai tea on a cold winter's day make you feel all warm and tingly. Not that Starbucks chai latte. Oh, I do like chai tea. Chai tea is so good, you guys, especially if it's cold outside. I'll take those comments on Rockfin. Thanks so much for the tip on Rockfin. Roger Meadows. Looks like the suburbs came out last night. Left politicians running for federal office on big ideas that need to be financed should start running on using the coinage power vested in them by the Constitution to pay for what's needed. And those running for state and local office should start running on chartering public banks to create the surplus needed to pay for what we need instead of raising taxes. Tax the rich once in office, but first concentrate on voting for ballot initiatives, then on third-party independent candidates. Ohio is a ballot initiative state. Voters can pass state laws and constitutional amendments. Was up in Albany today and got word regarding the New York Health Act. Senate Majority Leader Stu Cousins is scared of doing big change in a red year, yet she wasn't afraid of GOP last year. Washington State BIs is where it's at. Here's looking at USAB, Massachusetts ballot initiative for Medicare for all. We want politicians to come and support. I think what it was that Amazon workers are playing a wait and see game to see how JFK 8 does. A lot of times workers are afraid of retaliation from the big boss man. What if instead it was a vote to unionize? It was a vote to enact a right of first refusal to take it over and restructure into a worker-owned cooperative. All good points, Roger Meadows. And by the way, retaliation is supposed to be illegal anyway, but some people still do it. You'd be surprised. Ashura said, Sabby, are you going to talk about Dave Chappelle tomorrow? We'll probably talk about it on Roundtable tomorrow because I'm not, for those of you who are new to my channel, I don't go live on Thursdays because I'm on Roundtable at Revolutionary Blackout instead. So we'll probably talk about it on Roundtable. I saw a part of it and I was just like, whoa, yikes. Kitty Loves Film says chai tea is amazing. Yes, it does make you feel all warm and tingly inside. Gotta have that chai tea. All right, guys, it's 9 o'clock. I actually went past my time, but I knew I did have a lot to say tonight. So it is what it is. I'll be back Friday and we'll do some news and we'll do our call-in segment that I like to do on Friday. And the call-in segment is probably, I want to hear from the viewers about their opinion about Nina Turner's loss, how they feel about that. We're going to get into it. I know you guys got a lot to say. And where do you think people should go from here? So thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me. It's time for me to go. MICKEYMOUSE. It's time to go. All right, guys. Don't forget, guys, follow me on Rumble. I forget to mention that. I am on Rumble. I'm also on Odyssey. Same name, Sabby Sabs. Follow me on there. And if you're not following me on Rockfin already, follow me there as well. All right. All right, honey buns. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.